Welcome to another edition of the EOB Podcast, everyone. So last weekend, we have the release of two movies. We have the sixth Mission Impossible movie, Mission Impossible Fallout, starring Tom Cruise. And then we have the animation, the Warner Brothers animation, Teen Titans Go to the movies, which is based on a TV show. It's an animated comedy starring the Teen Titans. It's the superhero movies, with Robin, Starfire, Raven, Beast Boy, and Cyborg, in their own movies. Let's see how those movies did at the box office. All right, so let's jump right into the box office. We have Mission Impossible Fallout coming in number one as expected. I said the movie could open somewhere in the 50 to 55 million range. Rogue Nation opened to 55 million, and then Ghost Protocol opened to, I think, 29 million when it went wide. Although the movies are kind of trending upward, they kind of kept stable. So that's why I said the movie could open in the 50 to 55 million range. But Fallout, surprisingly, opened to 61 million, which is a tad higher than what my range is, 50 to 55 million. So Mission Impossible Fallout pulled in 61 million. It's very well reviewed, as typical of the Mission Impossible movies. 97% on the tomato meter right now at Rotten Tomatoes, and a cinema score. So from some of the reviews, they say this movie is kind of like the best Mission Impossible movie yet. And the box office kind of reflects that, and it's kind of surprising that we saw an uptick in the fan base, right? With so many, and we haven't seen kind of an increase, but we saw it here. We saw it here with this latest Mission Impossible movie. So we'll see if it can keep the audience come second weekend, but I guess a good outing for Mission Impossible. With the 61 million opening, this is the highest opening for a Tom Cruise Mission Impossible movie. So it hit its stride, with the sixth movie. But we'll see if it can build on that, if the franchise can build on that, or if this is the peak before the inevitable fall, right? Let's move on to number two, which is Mamma Mia. Here we go again, the sequel to the 2008 musical. It pulled in 15 million in the second weekend drop off. It's about 57%, and 70 million domestic so far, and it's about 8 million ahead of the first movie, in the same time frame. So while it opened higher, right, that the movie opened to let's see what the movie opened to. The movie opened to 34 million, about 34 million, or 35 million. If we round up, it's 35 million. The first movie opened to 27 million, so it opened higher. But the movie has a huge second weekend drop. The second weekend drop is nearly 57% second weekend. So while it's ahead of the first movie in the same time frame, but it doesn't have the staying power of the first movie. So I think we might see the second movie grossing less than the first movie. So 70 million domestic so far in the second weekend, and worldwide it's at 167 million, 97 million of that from overseas. So it's doing strong overseas. Doing well here, relatively well over here. Remember, this is just a sequel. The first movie, this is a musical based on, has a soundtrack of ABBA, the band, from way back when, and it's a sort of an uplifting movie. Musical numbers people can tap their toes to, sing to, because there are fans of the movie might be familiar with the songs. And like I said, with musicals, they don't really typically care about if it's a sequel or not. They just want to have an experience of people putting in musical numbers, dancing, singing, etc. So that's why my projections for the movie opening in the 30 to 35 million range was kind of right on. The movie opened to about 35, the higher end of that. So there you go. But huge drop off in the second weekend, so it might prove that the staying power might not be there as well as the first movie. It might not hold up as well as the first movie. All right, let's move on to number three, which is the Equalizer. the Denzel Washington, Antoine Fuqua movie, right? Antoine Fuqua directed it. Based on a TV series. It pulled in 14 million over this in the second weekend. Huge drop off, 61%. So that means that the staying power is not there. It's not there. So it's not going to make as much as the first movie. So 64 million domestic so far, and worldwide it hasn't opened that wide. Overseas, it had only 6 million of that from the overseas market for a total of 70 million worldwide. So domestically, it's kind of disappointing due to the huge drop-off in the second weekend. It's another one, just like Mamma Mia, the second movie is not going to surpass the first movie in domestic gross. All right, let's move on to number 4, Hotel Transylvania 3 Summer Vacation. It pulled in about 12 million. Over the weekend, about 48% drop off from the previous weekend, and domestic gross right now is 119 million, and worldwide it's at 285 million. So another hit for the Hotel Transylvania franchise. Budget is only about 80 million. So we are going to see more Transylvania movies. All right, let's move on to number 5, which is the other new release in theaters last weekend. It is Teen Titans Go to the Movies. I pulled in about 10.4 million in its opening frame, and this is a movie that I was kind of right on. I'd say the movie would open somewhere in the 10 to 15 million range, because like other movies that are based on a TV show that has a following on TV, and I feel that this movie Teen Titans might not necessarily translate into the box office, because people might not feel like it's worth the effort to go in theaters to watch this movie, right? Because they're pretty much seeing the same thing on TV right now in the Cartoon Network. So that's why it opened to 10.4 million, despite it being well reviewed, right? 90% tomato meter, but only a B+ cinema score. So people who saw it thought it was an average movie. It's an A movie, right? B+ cinema score wise, it's just like average. And so I think the people who saw it is not that impressed. And like I said, this is kind of like the bigger screen version of what they saw on TV. And do they want to make the effort to watch that on the big screen rather than stay in the comfort of their own home to watch what they already they're pretty much are seeing? So kind of in line with my estimation, 10 to 15 million. So there you go for Teen Titans Go. All right, number 6 is Ant-Man and the Wasp. Pulled in about 8.8 million over the weekend, about 47% drop off from the previous week. 183 million domestic so far, and 395 million worldwide, and it's already surpassed the first movie, right? The first movie has a domestic gross of 180 million, and already Ant-Man has beat that already with 183, and still ways to go. And let's see, worldwide it still has some ways to go, right? Worldwide 519 million for the first movie, but only 395 million of that for Ant-Man and the Wasp. And let's see how wide it has opened overseas yet. It hasn't opened in China yet, so the China figure has not come in. So there's still ways to go for this movie. All right, number 7 is Incredibles 2. It pulled in 7.3 million over the weekend, 39% drop off from the previous weekend, and domestic gross right now is 572 million, and worldwide is nearing 1 billion. It probably crossed it already as of this podcast. It's at 999.3 million, so it's probably surpassed it already. All right, number 8 is Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. It pulled in about 6.7 million over the weekend, 40% drop off from the previous weekend. Domestic gross is 397 million. Let's see, the worldwide take for that is 1.2 billion, and 840 million of that from the overseas. If we compare the Jurassic World movies, right? It's not gonna beat out the first movie, right? The first movie was a surprise hit, huge hit. It pretty much came out of nowhere, and we said it before in the previous podcast that Jurassic World came at the right time, at right place, right time, good timing, pretty much. It blew up. It grossed 652 million domestically, and then then we have the sequel, Fallen Kingdom, which so far grossed only 397. So you can see that it still has ways to go before it can beat out the first movie, but of course it won't beat out the first movie. And worldwide, it's still behind the first movie still, right? Because it's missing that huge chunk from the domestic market. I mean, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is at 1.2 billion. Jurassic World is 1.6, almost 1.7 billion worldwide. So yeah, it still has some ways to go, worldwide as well. So it's not going to make that money domestically, and it looks like it's not going to make up for that in overseas markets, since it has already opened in kind of the biggest theatrical markets, China already, and 250 million of that from China. So it's gonna be tough making that up. So, but still, right? It's still a huge success for the Jurassic World franchise. So we're gonna see more Jurassic World, for those who are, wondering. All right, let's move on to number 9, which is the Dwayne Johnson actioner Skyscraper. It pulled in about 5.3 million. A drop off 53% from the previous weekend. About 59 million domestic so far, and worldwide is at 255 million. So it's doing very well overseas. Like 996 million of the 255 million worldwide take is from the overseas market. So it's not doing that well here, but it's doing gangbusters overseas. So Dwayne Johnson is still a huge draw, and I guess one of the reasons why it might not be doing that well is because maybe there has been too many Dwayne Johnson movies in theaters. There was a saturation. There was Jumanji, which was a huge hit. It opened around Christmas time, and it keep on pulling them in. And then recently there was that gorilla movie, starring Dwayne Johnson as well, Rampage, right? It did okay, right? But then the Skyscraper, and with him in this role, it's kind of like Die Hard, another Die Hard movie. Him trying to break into a skyscraper, transversing all these tall buildings, and trying to rescue his daughter and his family from these terrorists, I guess. And it did okay. Open to 24 or 25 million, which is kind of lower end of what his movies usually open to, but it's still right there. And domestically, 59 million so far. So it's kind of one of the lower grossing Dwayne Johnson movies, and this is one of the movies that's kind of like right up his alley. But I guess there's just too many Dwayne Johnson movies in theaters recently, and I guess Skyscraper kind of took the fall for it. All right. Let's see. Let's move on to number 10. Let's close it out with the First Purge, which is actually the fourth Purge movie. It pulled in about 2.2 million in its fourth weekend. Domestic gross is 65 million. And let's see, worldwide it's at 111 million, and budget is only 13 million. So it's still a hugely successful franchise. They're making money with these purges. We're going to see more purges, people. Yes. All right, that rounds out the top 10. Let's move on to the new releases. So we're going to have a lot of new releases. The studios thought that, hey, the big summer releases are kind of out of the way. They're going to start dumping movies into theaters right now. Just take advantage of a lull in the release schedule. So we're going to have 4 wide releases. The first one is Death of a Nation, which is a documentary. And then we have The Darkest Mind, which is kind of a YA sci-fi movie about children who were experimented on by the government. And then we have The Spy Who Dumped Me. This is the comedy starring Mila Kunis and Kate McKinnon. And then we have Disney's Christopher Robin, which is kind of like the live action take of Christopher Robin when he grew up, has a job, and the Christopher Robin and Pooh reconnected. All right, so we're gonna have a lot to talk about. So let's start off with Death of a Nation. It's a documentary that kind of draws the parallel between Abraham Lincoln and the presidency of Donald Trump, according to what it is on IMDb. So if you've seen the promo, the trailer, it questions like, people accuse Donald Trump of being Nazis, being hypocrites, being sexist, being racist, etc., etc., and they say that, that's what Democrats call Abraham Lincoln back then. And the writer, Dinesh D'Souza, I'm not sure who he is, but I'm sure he's popular with the conservative crowd. This movie this documentary tried to make the case, and intersparse footage of from various Nazi images, etc., etc., and with Abraham Lincoln as well, blah 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 blah. So there you have it. Death of a Nation. So as you can see, it's not gonna find a wide audience, maybe except in the conservative crowd. It's definitely a message movie, even though they say it's a documentary. It is definitely a message movie preaching to the choir, saying, Democrats are the devil, Republicans are here to save, the U.S. from the evils of, the Democrats are perpetuating. So I don't think this is a huge movie unless I'm wrong. It's kind of out there, kind of extreme, but it's opening wide. So there obviously an interest, I guess, in the movie. Who knows? So I think this movie could probably pull in open to 3 to 5 million. I'm not sure if it could open higher, but I wouldn't be surprised because it is pandering to the conservative group. Right, and it's opening kind of at the time right now where November's coming along, and there are some political plays involved, with the election, November elections coming on. So I said normally 3 to 5 million, but it could be higher. I'm not sure, depending on what the undercurrents are going on politically, right? So, but for me, 3 to 5 million for Death of a Nation. All right, let's move on to The Spy Who Dumped Me, starring Mila Kunis and Kate McKinnon. Justin Theroux is in here, and Gillian Anderson. It is an action comedy starring Kunis and McKinnon. Kunis plays a woman who got dumped, and she discovered that he's a CIA, and whoever's out to get him is involving her. And along the way, they met up, and they got involved in his business. So they're running away, from gunshots, car chases, etc. Kind of like that Melissa McCarthy Spy, right? She's thrust in an environment that she's not prepared for, but hey, there you go. Kunis is not as popular as Melissa McCarthy, so I think this movie could open somewhere in the range of 20 to 25 million, since McCarthy Spy had a 29 million opening. All right, let's move on to The Darkest Mind. Like I said, it's kind of like a YA sci-fi novel. Group, children gathered up by the government, experimented on. Those who survived, a lot of kids died. Those survived, get superpowers, and they escaped from confinement and kind of tried to find their own haven. You've seen these movies, kind of like the X-Men as well, right? No, not a lot of recognizable names in this movie. They're probably making this movie kind of cheapish because you don't have to pay the actors much. They're doing it on the special effects. So despite that, right, I'm not seeing this movie doing very well because YA genre, it's not doing well at the box office, with the Maze Runner, the Divergent series, who couldn't finish it out in theaters, and a couple others, right? Even Steinberg's recent movie, Everything, opened to about 12 million, did 34 million domestic and 61 million worldwide, which is decent for a movie of that kind. But as you can see, it's not kind of a big blockbuster movie. So, but this movie is kind of sci-fi. It costs more. So I don't think Steinberg is right there yet. She's going to become a star, but I don't think she's right there yet. So I think this movie could probably open up in the 10 to 15 million range. All right. Let's move on to Disney's Christopher Robin, starring Ewan McGregor. Mark Forster directs. He directed Brad Pitt in World War Z, Machine Gun Preacher with Gerard Butler, Quantum of Solace, which is the Bond movie. But he also did some smaller movie as well, like The Kite Runner, well-regarded movie. So he's back to directing more lighter fare, not that edgy. It's Christopher Robin's kind of, has British sensibilities, kind of like a Paddington. But the problem is that Winnie the Pooh movies usually don't do that well, especially the animated movies. Like the movie back in 2005, Pooh's Humph movie, only had an opening of 6 million. And then the 2011 movie, Winnie the Pooh movie, opened to only 8 million. So, it's not high for Winnie the Pooh. But this is the live action movie. You think, Disney, it's an interesting thing, right? Because there's the marketing muscle of Disney. And then Pooh, like I said, it's not... doesn't have that wide of an appeal, even though he's a very well-known children's book, character. But he has been out of the limelight, so to speak, for a while now. So I'm not sure how big this Pooh is among the young set. But I feel this movie is more targeted toward the adults who grew up with the character, right? Because the main character is Ewan McGregor, who's Christopher Robin, who he grew up and grew away from Winnie the Pooh and his childhood things, right? And all the other characters. He moved to London, the big city. He has a job, has a family, wife and kid. And I guess he just kind of lost his ways, right? He's embroiled in the toils of adulthood, responsibilities and all. And he met up with Pooh, and I guess they're both trying to connect together to rediscover what he lost while growing up. And like I said, this is a movie that's targeted toward the adults more than the children. You can see that this movie is more mellow. It doesn't have the action-packed chaoticness of other children movie like chases, etc. Things going wrong. So that's why I say this is more targeted toward the adults, and it doesn't seem like it's targeting kids in any way. What is on screen. And maybe that's how they want it, how they want to portray Pooh. It's kind of like a more gentler children movie, as a character, more innocent movie, more innocent times. But this is a live action movie. Disney has the marketing muscle, but I'm still skeptical about how wide of an appeal a Pooh movie is, because the previous movies, the animated movies, didn't do that well. But then there's Disney, right, who has the marketing muscle. They have brainwashing powers, I guess, to convince people to watch it, right? So I'm going to balance that out. So I think this movie could probably open in the 30 to 35 million range because of Disney. I believe in the marketing power of Disney, and I think they could, that Disney could pull them in because of the forces, the I guess like I say, the channels that they have that are not available to other people, other studios, all the cross promotions, etc. All right, that's it for this podcast. Tune in next week to see if I'm right on this, Christopher Robin and other movies as well. Until then, take care. Bye bye.